Michael here, and in this video journal I'm going to take the top that I braced in the last video journal and make it as responsive as I can by carving away the braces in certain locations to make the top as tonally responsive as I can. So keep watching. Well, this is the top that I braced in the last video journal with my X bracing pattern. It's actually the top to the mahogany guitar. And now it's time to start working on it to make it as responsive as possible. But the first thing I want to do is just kind of listen to it and see where it is now. This may not come through on these cameras microphones, but we'll give it a try. What I'm hearing is just kind of a high pitch, not much sustain at all. Top is really tight right now. Well, the microphone on the cameras didn't really pick up what I was hearing when I tapped the top to listen to where the top is now to begin with. It's really tight and I need to come down quite a bit on it. The first thing I want to do is to go ahead and carve down the little X-brace cap that I glued on the X-brace joint. I'm just going to kind of carve both sides of it down to get it smooth and in line with the X-brace itself. The next thing I want to do is to make sure that the ends of my braces that meet the sides have tapered down to about 2.5 millimeters or about 3/32 of an inch. So I'll start with the lower arms of the X brace. I use some little pieces of rosewood which are cut-offs from the sides to use as a depth guide, and I'll carve down till I reach that depth on the ends of those braces. I also want to go ahead and carve down my upper arms of the X brace and the upper face brace if they haven't already met that requirement of about 2.5 to 3 millimeters. I did go ahead and carve down the upper arms of the X brace before I glued the upper face brace on, but now I can go ahead and fine-tune that transition from the top of the X brace down to where those arms meet the sides. After I've carved those braces down, I want to go ahead and listen to the top one more time just to see if I have changed anything at all. Probably at this point I have not really done much at all to change the tonal qualities or the responsiveness of the top. So I'll keep going from here. Now I know that I want my finger braces to taper down from the height that they are as they meet the X brace arms down to nothing. So that's the next thing I'll do. I'll go ahead and carve those down on both sides, all 4 finger braces. When I get really close, I'll use a little piece of thin plastic to keep me from gouging the top as I fine-tune the very end of that finger brace down to practically nothing where it meets the top. After I've done that, I'll go ahead and listen to the top one more time just to see if I've changed anything. I may notice a slight difference right now when I hold it up close to my ear and tap on it. The main part of the responsiveness of the top is going to come when I start working on the X braces themselves. I want the lower face brace, the end of it, to taper down to nothing as well. So I'll go ahead and carve that down now at this time and get it to where it transitions from the height of the knuckle down to nothing as it approaches the sides. Now my knuckles on the lower arms of the X brace need to be about 2.5 inches from where that brace meets the kerfing on the sides. So I'll go ahead and place a mark on those knuckles at 2.5 inches in, and then I can go ahead and start carving them down from there. Next, I want to start working on the X braces themselves. This is the meat and potatoes of the sound changing, of the responsive changing of the top. I'll start now on the X braces, and I'll take the both lower arms of the X brace and use my little hand plane and kind of plane down from close to the X brace joint down to the valley that I created when I originally cut out the profile of the scalloping that I was going to do early on before I glued the braces up. After I do that, I'll go ahead and listen to the top one more time, and I will probably start noticing a little bit more sustain at this point. Next, I want to go ahead and start fine-tuning the depth of the cut on my X braces on either side. I'll start from the knuckle, then work my way down the valley, and then turn the top back around and work from the X brace joint itself down to the valley. So I want a gentle slope to come down and then kind of come back up to that knuckle. I'll do that on both sides, both of the X braces. And then I'll listen to it one more time just to see. And I should start noticing a little bit more sustain and a drop in the fundamental pitch of the top at this time. The next thing I'm going to do is go down to the lower face brace and carve down from its knuckle where it meets the lower arm of the X brace down to where it comes back up to its knuckle just before it meets the sides, taking that material out from there, and then listening to the top to see if this has changed and lowered my fundamental just a little bit and given me a little bit more sustain. I'll also go ahead and carve down the middle lower face brace, if you will, the one right below the bridge plate on its ends. On this guitar build, I changed the shape of this brace a little bit. Instead of having one that comes up and a knuckle here, then a valley, then a knuckle, and then meeting the other X brace, I've changed that to just one kind of gentle sweep up to the middle and then down to the ends. So I'm going to go ahead and carve down now from the center section of the height of the brace down to the ends where they meet the X braces on either side. After I've done the lower face braces and done a little carving in them, I'll listen again to what the top has changed. I should have a drop in the fundamental and a little bit more sustain as I continue on with this carving process. I'll continue to remove material from the lower face braces and then listening to the top as I go to see how I am changing the tonal qualities and the flexibility, the responsiveness of the top. After that, I'll continue working on the valleys on the X braces and taking a little bit of material off and then checking the progress by tapping the top and listening to the sound that I'm getting as I go. Well, I've spent some time doing some carving on the braces in certain areas here, like around my knuckles, and fine-tuning the finger braces down till they taper down to nothing, and making sure that my upper face brace and my upper arms of the X brace will meet properly at the proper dimension to fit under the sides. And see if I can hear where I am here now. Got a much lower pitch now, a little bit more sustain. This particular piece of spruce that I was using for my braces had a lot of grain run out of it, so it was hard to carve. I had to keep going back from one direction to another. One way I get around that is to use my little sander. I put an extension bar on this because the regular little pieces that come with it aren't long enough to fit over the braces, but this works pretty well, allowing me to get in there and do a little bit more sculpting on these things. This little tool also comes in handy when I want to start profiling the knuckles and just rounding over the sides just a little bit as well. Well, from here it's just a matter of continuing this process, listening to the top as I go, seeing how flexible it's becoming, and just working it on down until I reach the final goal. Now I did a before and then I'm doing the after of the tone of this top that I've been working on in this video. I want to see if I can let you hear how these tops sound before and after I have done some carving on them to get them as responsive as possible. Now here's the X-braced top that I just finished gluing all the braces on. I haven't done any carving or anything at all to this top yet. Let's hear what it sounds like if this will come through. Well, here's the finished top after I've gotten done doing all the carving to make the top as responsive as possible. Let's see if I can hear what it sounds like on this microphone. Well, hopefully that'll give you some kind of idea of what we're looking for as we brace the tops and try to carve them down and get them as responsive as possible. Well, that concludes this video journal on carving the responsive top. If you've enjoyed my videos, please subscribe, click the notification icon, you know what to do. If you'd like to support the channel, there's a link down below in my Buy Me a Coffee page. Also on that Buy a Coffee page, there will be a link where you can purchase the data sheets that I use for these videos. Thank y'all so much for watching.